Hello, in this video we're going to talk about setting weight loss goals. I've been asked quite a few times over the last couple of weeks about what the goals are, how to set them and everything else. So I thought in this video we'd talk about actually setting goals for weight loss and getting fitter, how I do it and how you can do it too. My name is Mark and I'm here to help you live a better, healthier life. My goal is to help as many people as I can get in shape and improve their quality of life. Now, if this is your first time here and you want to learn more about practical and effective ways to improve your health, your fitness and your overall wellness, or if you're just interested in expanding your knowledge about fitness and nutrition, start now by hitting the subscribe button and hitting the notification bell so you can be kept up to date with all videos. Now, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Okay, before we start talking specifics about the goals and how to set them, let's talk about a few things about goals in general. So the first thing is be realistic with it. Okay, what is a healthy amount of weight to lose? What is your ideal goal and how quickly are you going to get to it? Now remember, this is a journey for all of us. Okay, and my journey will be different from yours, as yours will be from your friend or your partner or whatever else. So be realistic and have yourself in mind when you're setting these goals. There is no point looking at these inspirational things on YouTube, and they are inspirational and I look at them with jealousy, but when you see somebody going from 400 pounds to ripped and skinny and all the rest of it, you don't know what their journey is, you don't know what they've done to get there, and all you can do is be realistic with yourself and the journey you are on. So first thing here is, while you're setting goals, be realistic and personalize it to you. I'm going to talk about my goals and how I set them, but apply them to yourself, in terms of how we do this. Remember, there are lots of things we can control. We can control what we're eating. We can control the amount of exercise we're doing. There are things that are totally within our power to actually control. But there are also things that we can't control. If you get an injury, your genetics, how fast your metabolism works, those are things that we might be able to influence a little bit, maybe, but generally speaking, you cannot control those. So that's why it's really important to be realistic and to actually have it for you and your body type and the way you work and how you go forward. So bear that in mind as we're going through this. The last thing before we start talking specifics is set yourself up for success. It is far easier to hit your goals once you've set them if you are realistic with it, so you can actually keep hitting those goals and feel good about it and feel like you're maintaining that progress that you want, otherwise you wouldn't have started, right? And it's one of those things that set yourself for success is really important, because if you set an unrealistic goal, the chances are you are going to fail at hitting it. Then you're going to be demotivated to continue, which means you're going to end up putting all the weight you lost back on again, and that's where you lead to that yo-yo dieting piece. And I'm not talking a couple of pounds here. I'm not talking, if your weight fluctuates a little bit by a few pounds. But over my journey, there have been times when I've put, a stone or two back on because I've set a goal, I've tied everything into that goal, I've missed it, I've been disheartened, and I've thought, well, I missed it now anyway, so why don't I have that Chinese and that pizza and that, takeaway, and I've just gone totally off the rails. And that, I know, is because I wasn't realistic with what I was trying to achieve. When I failed to hit it, I just thought, what the hell? What the hell? I'm off the wagon now. I'm just going to have some fun. And the worst thing about that is that in a week, a month, 2 months, you're going to come out of that and go, why did I do that? Now I've just got to lose an extra stone or two just to get back to where I was in order to lose more. So please don't get too disheartened if you do fall off the wagon, but try and get back on it as quickly as you can. Right, and part of that is those realistic goals, controlling the things you can do, and setting yourself up to success. You know, setting yourself up so that you wake up in the morning going, yeah, I've done it this week, I can do it next week, I can do this. Now, those things having been said, let's actually talk about specifics in terms of how you can set your weight loss goals and what you want to do and go through. So let's kick straight into it. Okay then, so for this, I'm going to use myself as an example, but please apply this to yourself in terms of what is realistic and achievable for you. So let me talk through what I do in terms of setting my goals, both the short term, the medium term, and the long term goals. So I'm in the region of 280 pounds currently. Okay, so that's where I'm starting from. I am obese, but not morbidly obese anymore. And to get to my ideal, I hate that word, ideal weight, I need to get to 177 pounds. Now I know I've lost a lot, but over 100 pounds is still too big a number for me to look at in the short or middle term. So I immediately put that 177 pounds into the end goal category, the kind of final destination of where I'm aiming to get to, but it's a long-term goal. Then what I do is start working back from there in terms of what my goals are and my timescales so that it's realistic. So the next category for me is I would love to be overweight. You can't, maybe you did it on the video, but you can't realize the joy of going from morbidly obese to obese. That was a really big thing, and only somebody who's done that can realize how big a thing that is. So in my mind, I may well get the same feeling from going from obese to overweight. Wouldn't that be a change? Being merely overweight rather than obese or morbidly obese. So the next thing I do is I use the TD calculator. Again, the link will always be at the bottom of the videos. And I work out what I need to get to actually be overweight rather than obese. So for me, that's 221 pounds. That means for me, in order to get to that medium term goal, I need to lose around about 60 pounds to get there. So what's realistic? What's healthy? For me, I've set myself an ongoing goal of 1 to 2 pounds per week, every week, which means in a best case scenario, if I'm losing 2 pounds, it'll take 30 weeks to get there. Worst case scenario, it will take me approximately 60 weeks to get there. So we're talking, half a year to just over a year. Now, that I think is realistic. I think it is. Some weeks I'll have better weeks, some weeks will be worse. I will have plateaus and things along then. I've talked about that in another video. But I think overall, for me, that is a realistic goal to achieve. So, in terms of my weight loss, my goals are £1 to £2 per week, which means in 30 to 60 weeks, I should be at overweight rather than not. And that will put me in the region of £40 left to lose to my ideal goal. So, bearing what I said in mind about the things you can control and things you can't. So, with diet and with some exercise, getting there, looking at reducing that weight slowly and steadily and healthily over time. And yes, a year seems like a very long time, but it goes quite quickly. So the next thing up is, what other goals do I have around that? Because that's okay on paper, that's great. You've got a weight loss goal. But for me, one of the big things here is your overall wellness, your fitness, not just your weight loss. And I've been asked about this quite a few times, so I just wanted to talk briefly about it. For me, my first priority is weight loss and fat loss. Obviously, we have no control over where we lose the weight from. That's one of the things we can't control. But what we can do is maintain the exercise so we keep the muscle mass we have. And remember, muscle is kind of the furnace for your metabolism. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn, etc. So what you don't want to do is go really low protein and cut out a whole pile of food and undereat and start losing that muscle mass because your body starts eating it up. What you want to do is make sure you keep maintaining the furnace by eating enough protein, exercising safely and carefully, so that your muscles are still being used and not being used up, which will then force your body to get rid of more fat than muscle. And that is what the goal is. So over this initial period of 1 to 2 pounds, my other goals are to maintain my exercise. Please note that, maintain my exercise. So I walk about 10,000 steps per day, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more, depending on how busy I'm at work and things. I do about an hour worth of exercise in the house, whether that's yoga or the weights we've got in the house. And that for me is maintenance. What I want to do, and one of my goals, is when I get to being overweight, I'd like to start doing runs, and I'd like to start doing that couch to 5k, kind of progression, because I would quite like to do that. I suspect I'm never going to be a runner, and it may well be a very slow jog, but I would like to do that. So in terms of goals, maintain my exercise, while I'm going down to overweight, so for the next 60 pounds. When I get to that overweight, and therefore there is less stress on my knees and other things because I'm carrying too much weight at the minute to make it comfortable. But when I get to the overweight piece, I'd like to add the couch to 5k to my walking the dogs and exercise in the house. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to go for 2-hour jogs and all the rest of it, but I would like to start building that into my routine for the week. But then it comes a point where we all have exercises we love and exercises we hate. And I know that in COVID, it's been a struggle for me, and it probably has been a struggle for you as well. But I do actually really love weights in a gym and weightlifting. So as a kind of aspirational goal, when I get to overweight, I want to add in the 5k, couch to 5k, stress that, couch to 5k. And when I get below that, I want to start putting in more strength work, because that for me is when my goals change from purely weight loss to body transformation in terms of how my body is made up, my muscle mass versus fat, water, all the rest of it. And that for me is how I look at the goals. I look at my weight currently, I look at where I want to get to. I then split it up into steps, and I try to be really realistic with those steps. I do make rewards for myself in there as I get to different places. Now, some of those rewards are quite hard to pin down in terms of, you can't say when I hit 250 pounds I will give myself this reward, because my rewards, the ones that mean a lot to me, are things like being able to buy an XL shirt rather than a 2/3 XL shirt. It's the things of the little wins I've had up to now of being able to buy at least some clothing from a supermarket, and I can now go in and buy jeans off the shelf and everything else. And that's a really great feeling. I know that looking back in terms of where I started this journey, I was pushing the limits of what was available in the big men's shops and things. It was a sort of 7 and 8 XL. It's always very embarrassing when you go into a shop and you don't fit in. It's even more embarrassing when you go into a shop for big people and you're barely fitting into their clothes. So being able to go into a supermarket and actually fit into clothes is great, but it's only some at the minute. Not all of the range is available to me, and quite often in the ranges that do have the sizes that I fit into, they may well be out of stock, or they've only got one, etc. So those goals are harder to define. You can't put a weight on that, but what you can do is every now and again try. And don't get disheartened like I used to when you get a jacket and it's got several inches before you can do the zip up. Because if you keep on hitting your goals and keeping motivated for it, that gap will get closer and closer until you can zip it up, okay? And then you'll be able to wear it in public, you'll lose the weight, you'll feel great for it. So what I'm saying with goals is start with where you are. Have a long-term goal of where you actually want to get to, and then fill in the gaps with goals that are achievable and realistic for you. Over time, change those goals. Look at how you're doing. Are you only losing half a pound to a pound? Don't get disheartened by it. Reassess your goals, because you're still losing weight. If you fall off that bandwagon and you put some of that weight back on, don't put your head in the sand and deny what's happened. Own it and say to yourself, yep, I've fallen off, but it's up to me to get back on. The hardest thing any of us do on this weight loss journey is start. And I've said it before and I'll keep saying it, and it is really hard, to fall off the wagon and then get back on. But don't lose that month or two, because 4 or 8 weeks could well mean a stone if you're losing a pound a week. It's one of those things where, that couple of months, 8 weeks, a pound or two per week, it could be up to a stone. That's weight that you need to start losing. So, in terms of goals, start with where you are, start with where you want to get to, and that'll be different for you, for me, or anybody else. Where do you want to get to? And then break up the gap in terms of how you're going to get from A to B. Be realistic and set those goals. Now, I've told you in terms of my goals. So a question for you is, what goal are you setting for this year? What is your target for this year? And what are you trying to achieve? And hopefully we can all get there together. Now let me know in the comments, and thank you again for watching this video. One quick thing before we wrap this video up that just popped into my head, and I want to mention it. We've talked about control, we've talked about being realistic and setting your goals and how you're going to work to them and over what period of time you're going to work to them. But here's one thing that has been really quite important to myself when I'm looking at my diet. Notice I say my diet, not a diet. Is the fact that my diet for me needs to be interesting, flavorful, and I need to feel full. I've been over the years on lots of different diets that some have made me lose weight quite quickly, but they've not been maintainable because I've basically been miserable and hungry the whole time. So when you are setting these goals and when you are working towards them, which is great, please bear in mind that the only thing from your diet that you're wanting to do is take in less calories than you're using. Being at a calorie deficit is most of the struggle in terms of losing weight. And it is a struggle, and I do fall off the wagon, I know, but consistently using more calories than you're taking in is the key to losing weight. That's what I found over the last, I started off at 470 pounds, I'm at 280. So the best part of 200 pounds, right? The key is consistently eating less than you're using up. But the key for me with that is try and eat volume foods. Try and eat foods that you like, with flavors that you like, so that you are satisfied, satiated, and full. Right? Because that, for me, is one of the keys for staying on a journey for the long term. Because if you've got cravings and everything else, and if you're constantly hungry, the temptation to snack and reach for those things you shouldn't be is huge. So I just wanted to leave you with that one there. And as always, if you've enjoyed the video, please do hit the like button, because that helps with the YouTube algorithm. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you.